written around the time of Y2K. Waiting for something to happen. Waiting for something to happen, looking for something to happen. Make shit happen, fuck you, used to write on the walls before Dope took away his drive. Fashion means to make, not to buy, Jordan used to say, before he vanished somewhere uptown. It was the mid-1980s, Alphabet City, Lower East Side, before the realtors came up with fashionable East Village, soaring 8-foot ceilings, funky historic walk-up. They didn't tell you that next door to your $2,000 a month luxury co-op, and outside the front door, Coke and Dope, Clean Works, crackhead outside, kick your front door in, crackhead wants to be inside, then back out again. And everyone bought in, hung out, and waited for something to happen. Something to happen, early 1980s Alphabet City urban rubble art, every square inch of brick and mortar covered in paint, third world murals, Avenue C, gang tags, turf wars, don't diss my boy, and artists, wannabes, art school dropouts, aimless suburban white boys with time on their hands. There was more time back then. Money wasn't as important. Squatters spare changing, slackers hanging out, barely hanging on. But you could live in New York and have enough time to live and to create, and the canvas was vast. The world is my canvas, I wrote, I shall not want. It signed another name, it belonged to us all anyway. No one reigns. No private property, it was all too close, people on top of people. Not when so much of it was planted so squarely in your face. New money, old money, no money. 42nd Street, flashing explicit reminders of what your money could buy, Times Square. I didn't ask to see it any more than they asked to see what I had to say. They paid for theirs, but me, like so many others, had no money, just paint to be heard. So they had to read it anyway, and it just kept going on, block after block, brick after brick, as everyone waited for something to happen. As time moved on and money slowly took over, cleaning up the gutter, the alleys, the abandoned bricked-over tenements. The standing walk-up caskets of lives moved on for over 100 years, And the spirit still lingered and the artist still painted, slowly evolving the way of the dinosaur. And now it's clean, pretty, sparkling, and safe, a wise investment. And everyone wants the spirit, everyone wants to feel the spirit of the funky historic walk-up, which now has been long, long gone. Venture capitalists, developers, realtors, whores in suits, cashed in and moved on. And the paint's gone and the bricks rebuilt and the sidewalk now clean. And they look around, trust funds maturing, wondering where the spirit, where the soul is gone, and wait for something to happen. Moving on to Santa Fe, Sissy. Good afternoon. Via Suites de Santa Fe and Buena Vista, Tienda Grande condominiums. This is Sissy. How may I be of service to you this fine day? Sissy grinned a vacant, toothy smile into space. Her overcolored, blood-red lipstick just slightly smeared on her face. As she held the receiver between her thumb and forefinger, diamond-clustered fingers, pinky extended. 38 years of faithful service, her name tag boasted. 38 years since she had had an independent thought or a situation that strayed from the standard operating procedure. 38 years of meticulously arranged abject withdrawal from the human race. Sissy had been in a coma for most of 38 years, only emerging from time to time to answer the front desk phone. Sissy lived to answer the phone at the Via Suites de Santa Fe and Buena Vista Tienda Grande condominiums. How may I be of service to you this fine day? Sissy smoked horrid, shit-brown Moore cigarettes, slathered, dripping reminders of her overcolored blood-red lipstick. Sissy went home every night and drank pitcher after pitcher of her own special blend of vodka gimlets, with game shows blasting loud until she commenced snoring, with no one around to hear, in her rocker recliner. Ashtray, a smoldering volcano of Moore cigarette butts, cohabitating in ghastly stench, and would arise the following morning to shower, drink hot tea with toast, and attend to her 60-minute makeup regimen. Would drive to work, proudly shining her employee name tag. 38 years of faithful service, and took to her position eagerly behind the front desk, waiting again for the phone to ring.
Dale,
Yes,
do you mind stepping into the mic just slightly for me?
into the mic.
Yes.
A wedding ring today. I found a wedding ring today while walking my dogs. Beautiful sun-shining morning as the smoke subsided. The fires were under control now. I took a deep breath and tried to clear my mind. It had been a hectic time. I looked down and picked it up. It was a solid gold band, still shining. And inscribed on the inside, it said, "To my darling, with all my love, forever." I looked down and picked it up from the pile of sand and debris where it had been thrown by the side of the road. Ruby was the leavin'est gal I ever knew. Ruby was a shining diamond in the night. Me, I had been in New York 8 years and was about to explode. I rolled into the cafe New Year's Eve, half loaded and dosed for the first time in years. Last time I dropped, me and Johnny D ripped into town amid a kaleidoscope of intense fusion. 4th of July, probably 82. Excuse me. We decided to dose in New York and see what the big thing was all about. Johnny, he'd been there, done that, but me, I'd never ventured that far into the depths of the unknown. Born and raised in Connecticut, we didn't take no chances, and life was linear, beginning, middle, and end. Me, I guess I had fear. Hell, fear of this, fear of that, claustrophobia around that many people, but as the weightlifters say, that which doesn't kill me will make me stronger. Somehow I was born into a middle-class family in Connecticut, back when there was a middle class. You can't really say that the evaporation of that social class was a tragedy. The middle class was bottle-fed on the Leave It to Beaver ideals, and I had always believed that problems could be resolved. We didn't have a TV set until I was almost 10, so I can't say it was from that influence. And my brothers, who are both younger, are wholly dysfunctional with a TV-arrogant attitude that may be unsurpassed in this world. There are times when it is obvious that the Brady Bunch is halting all laws of physics in their 30-minute problem resolution before the next commercial. The real problem lies in the subliminal message that there can be problem resolution at all. Me, I went to say goodbye to Ruby with a loaded pistol and a spare clip, just in case. Growing up in a good Christian Leave It to Beaver family in Connecticut, the first thing I remember in my upbringing was being told to deny my instincts. I guess it was figured back then that instincts were for animals and aboriginals, and God gave us the Bible to find our course, and the voices from within were not to be listened to. That is what separated us from the animals. You weren't supposed to enjoy yourself, you weren't supposed to listen to your voices, and you sure as hell weren't supposed to rely on your own judgment. Fortunately, the sex drive is more powerful than reason, more powerful than Christian guilt, and I remember seeing all those years of Leave It to Beaver go away in one long teenage evening. Mom and Dad were at choir rehearsal and the time was right. She was from Kansas, not too pretty, kind of heavy, bearing hints that she may have had a child already in her short teenage life, and one day, not too discreetly, told me that she was on the pill. Everyone back there in my hometown knew everyone else in my hometown, and it had all gone from K through 12 together. It wasn't too likely I was going to score in the inner circle, and truth to tell, in that small town with no secrets, perhaps no one else was either. There was very little lust, there was no passion. It was contrived and mechanical, and it achieved the desired result. Most of the time I pulled back a bit, looked down, looked up at her, looked back down again, and incredulously took it all in. It had all been explained to me a long time ago. Dad embarrassed me with that first talk when I was 12. But it was all confounded by my mother telling me that it was a sacrament to be enjoyed between married couples only. I lay there overwhelmed in the aftermath. After she had gone home, reason and my upbringing started slowly working their way back into my newly liberated thoughts. I started to wonder if God or Jesus, I started to wonder if even my dead grandfather were all up in heaven looking down disapproving on the corpse. It was funny that unlike earlier indiscretions, unlike earlier sex acts performed alone, this time the guilt didn't last. It took a long time. It took a lot of ups and downs and a lot of hard lessons before I realized that those voices inside of me were really God talking. Aboriginals all over the world followed their gut, listened to the voices, and followed their dream. Finally, in that latter part of the 20th century, I started to learn to follow mine. I think it's easier to be spiritual when you have nothing. Some people have so much their whole lives long, they can't imagine there's anything missing. They live for their possessions, they buy and sell, and if it can't be bought or sold, it ain't worth having. I figure you have what you have, pure and simple, but it's the quality of life that matters, the quality of that which you can't buy or sell. You walk through life with that which you were born with, and which you acquire along the way. But it ain't the materials, it ain't the buying, it ain't the selling. But what you really acquire along the way, truth is the materials are anchors, and the electronics are noise. To get in touch with the divine, you trip over the anchors, and the electronics cause too much interference. What happens when you look at yourself in the world alone in the universe? What are you going to do? Do you have any choice? You're going to have to do the right thing. You have no choice. Without the materials or the electronics, you have to do the right thing. You have to help those that need it and leave as clean a path as you can. It's very simple. My karmic slate is clean. I've done what I have done because I had to, good or bad. I say more good than bad, but in the long run, you have to look out for each other and pick up the trash along the way. Chaz Lee never talked too much about the man he killed. It was self-defense, but he never used the words murder or kill. Like all of us in different situations, he did what he had to do. He wasn't proud of it, nor was he ashamed of it. It just happened, and it happened in the past. He told me the story once or twice, and I knew what happened. I knew what he meant. He was a killer the way we all are. It takes a while to deprogram when you have been instilled with all of the moral black and whites, but everyone knows, perhaps deep down inside, some more than others, how far you have to be pushed before you realize who you really are. In today's civilized world, people put too much emphasis on the evil of killing. They have lost the purity, the holiness of killing, not murder, not the predisposed modern age interpretation of unprovoked, cold-blooded murder of an innocent, but the purity and the passion of the act. Killing is pure, and there is probably more inherent evil in theft than in killing. Theft is nothing more than a crime of greed and opportunity. Killing is an act that is siphoned from deep in the recesses of the heart. It is a pure and emotional act, love and hate being two emotions that are exactly side by side in the overall scheme of things. Inherently, people are all killers. It has not been that long. Civilization is merely the wallpaper on the house that God built. We are all animals out of control, usually under the false illusion that we do control our own destinies. It is arrogant for any of us to assume that we maintain any control over this vast and splendid universe. Ruby seemed like the perfect partner. I wasn't going to waste my time with someone who wasn't going to see things the same way I did. Me and Ruby were going to do good things, and with her background, I pitied her sadness. With her view of how things should be, there wasn't a better pair who was going to make the world a better place. Ruby's charity came from her own need for help when it wasn't there for her. I pitied her sadness, but since I had seen her demons, since I had felt her pain, there was no one better to understand her and to help her. Ruby was going to get better, and we were going to do nothing but good deeds. Ruby knew what had been done to her. She knew who had done it, and what it had done to her, what it had done to her point of view. Ruby had a hard time with her demons. Ruby didn't have many friends, and when any of them hung around just long enough, she'd either up and leave or dissect them, enough to expose all of the human imperfection before she moved on. There was no room in Ruby's life for those that weren't right, those that weren't pure. Little things would set her off, and the whole thing usually crashed right down on her. She used to ask me why all the shit landed right on her. I didn't think back then that she was looking for it or that she deserved it. But it was all in the way she reacted to things. Ruby just couldn't let things go. Absolutely. Every injustice had to be dealt with, and Ruby was too pure to close her eyes to the evil around her. Once I asked her brother Mike why she was so sensitive to negativity. Mike told me that Ruby was used to being a victim. Being a victim was what Ruby was best at, and if she and Mike would go someplace, they'd go to a bar, Ruby would scan the joint and use her powers to see who it was that couldn't be trusted, who not to sit next to, and the like. I asked her about it once, and she said it was because she was psychic. Psychic maybe, but I started to wonder why it was only the evil that she could see. Ruby said you had to rely on your instincts. In this impersonal and high-tech civilized world, it was all you had to go on. And instincts were what God gave you, so you had to listen to the inner voices. Me, I had a tough time all my life, being told I was too sensitive. Back in Connecticut, we weren't supposed to listen to the voices. Back in Connecticut, the TV was supposed to block out the voices, and God was in the Bible. So there was no need to be listening to any voices anyway. It was strange. I'd go to mandatory church every Sunday morning, and sit there an outsider, wondering if everyone else was getting something out of it, getting in touch. With the angels swimming around the heads of every other one there, leaving me outside the door to heaven with no translation. Maybe they were all getting exactly the same thing out of it that I was. Maybe the simpler minds just need less stimulation. Maybe suggestion was all they needed. I don't know. All I could do was compare it to my first trip to the casinos in Atlantic City. Watching all the gambling addicts calm alike at the tables, disabled elderly in wheelchairs sucking on oxygen, trying to run the whole bank of slot machines with no thought of tomorrow. But again, there I was on the outside looking in. There I was back in church, sitting right there on the outside looking in, wondering if that is as close as I was ever going to get to God. Question?